Previously on Unscripted.
You're going to laugh hard. It's when Felicity cut her hair in season 2 of the show Felicity.
And you're right, I'm laughing. Because you're talking about not even a real person. You're talking about a character on a television show.
You're listening to Unscripted with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
Okay, Skip. So today's topic is Montreal Canadiens goaltenders who were not born in Canada. It's a mouthful, I know, but we'll explain later. But before we get to that, I want to give you the continuation of the story that I started last time about my Apple Pay.
Oh, God, I can't wait to hear. Were you able to get on the subway? Did they stop you? What happened?
So it's a long story, and I'm going to try to make it short because I don't want to bore the listeners. But last time we spoke 2 weeks ago, you recall I spoke to Visa and they told me there's nothing wrong with my card, which I knew that anyway. And they also told me that there's nothing they could do. So the next time I went to use the subway, I only use it once a week. I was 99% sure that my Apple Pay would not work.
Right.
And if you've ever used a busy subway, you know, there's people in front of you, there's people behind you, they just want to get to where they're going. So if you can't get through the turnstile and there's people behind you and have to stop, they get very annoyed.
There's a lot of peer pressure right there.
So I purposely had my phone in my right hand ready to tap and my credit card in my left hand, knowing that my phone wasn't going to work.
You got a card in each hand, yeah?
And sure enough, I was right. The phone didn't work. Apple Pay didn't work. So I had to tap my card and I was able to get through.
So it's never going to work. It's never going to work.
Well, I did get some new information that I didn't have last time we spoke.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to a different employee at the subway station. And I showed him like what happens when I try to tap my phone. He saw the message. I wrote it down this time. It says trying to pay unpaid fare, but all my fares have been paid. And he said, well, these machines that, you know, where you tap your card and take your money, they're actually run by a third party called Presto. Actually, I knew this. I don't know why I forgot, but I did know this. And every time it worked in the past, I would get a charge on my credit card and it would always say Presto, not Toronto Transit Commission.
Okay.
So now he's telling me I need to call Presto, which I had not done until that point. So this is new information, and I did call Presto.
Of course you did.
Let me tell you, getting a human at Presto is not an easy thing to do. I had to call, no joke, 3 times before I got a human.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the first human I got, it sounded like I woke him up from his nap. Like he was not interested in talking to me, let alone helping me. And then we got disconnected. I'm 99% sure he just hung up on me.
He just hung up. He's like, I can't deal with this. I got to go back to sleep.
Exactly. So I call back. I get another person who was a little bit more helpful, didn't hang up on me, and transferred me to his supervisor. So the supervisor tells me that, and I'm going to try to explain this to you because I'm still unclear on what it is, so forgive me. Supervisor explains that yes, my credit card was charged, but Presto hasn't received my payment. So there's obviously an issue between my credit card company and Presto. This is not my problem. But apparently it is my problem because I can't use my Apple Pay unless I clear the charges. I think that was the term that she used. I'm like, well, how do I do that?
But you can't be the only person that's trying to use Apple Pay with a Visa. I'm assuming with a Visa credit card. I don't know what bank you are, TD or whatever.
Yes. I asked her this question. I said, I can't be the only person that's having this problem. And she couldn't answer my question.
Well, you're the only person that's having this problem that actually tracked down Presto and, went this extra mile.
So here are the instructions that she gives me. And I do this while I'm on the phone with her. First, I have to download the Presto app. So already I'm annoyed because I don't want to have another app on my phone.
Okay.
I download the app, and then when you download it, you have to, create your profile, name, date of birth, whatever, all this stuff that they ask you, email address. And then you have to associate a credit card, the same credit card, with your account. I did all this, very skeptical, but I did it anyway. And lo and behold, it now shows me all my transactions that I've done for the last 6 months. on the subway, even though I had just signed up for it that moment. So it shows me all the transactions, and it shows that there are two, like it has a red exclamation mark, and I need to go in and, I don't know, approve them or whatever. So I do this, and the red exclamation mark changes to a green check mark.
But this doesn't help you get through the subway.
Well, she said that now that it's a green check mark, I will be able to use Apple Pay next time. So this is 2 weeks ago. So then I used the subway again just 4 days ago-ish. And again, I was not 100% sure that my Apple Pay would work, so I had my credit card ready. But Apple Pay actually worked.
Wow. So it worked. You figured it out.
Right. That's what I thought.
Oh, God.
It led me on the subway, and coming home, I had no issues. But then, at 11:30 that night, I receive an email from Presto saying, contactless card requires verification. By the way, that's not easy to say. So I go onto the app, and I do whatever it tells me to do, and then I get another email saying, card unblocked. So my card apparently was blocked. So even though I was able to get on the subway, I got that notification. And by the way, when I look at my credit card statement, it doesn't show any charges for me having used the subway.
Not even pending?
Not even pending. There was one pending. It's now out of pending, but it's not in my actual charges. So I have no clue if it's going to work next time or not. But I've now given up.
You're riding the subway for free now, or like what?
Who knows? She said,
So,
I did call back and I explained what happened, and the person I spoke to sounded like they had no clue what was going on. And she kept putting me on hold, I guess asking someone for help. Couldn't get help, asked me for my number and said, we're going to call you back. Like, I'm never getting a call back, but I'm not calling them again because I don't want to waste any more time. So who knows?
So you don't know. Next time you use the subway, you'll see if it works now.
Who knows? It's 50-50, I think.
Isn't everything, I guess?
Yeah.
Either you will get through or you won't.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry for that long-winded story. Do we have any listener mail?
Mailbag.
Yes. Mark from Philadelphia, who was really excited because he played a huge part in our last episode because I mentioned him in 2 of my 5 craziest things that ever happened in our lifetime. And actually, he was kind of mentioned a 3rd time, but I didn't mention him by name. I just sort of mentioned him like saying I was at a friend. But so he was saying that some other really big things in our lifetimes that happened that were shocking is the Space Shuttle Challenger explosion, which I thought was a great one.
That's true. That's a good one. Yes, I remember
we
that.
were like high school age, like it was like a big deal. The Expos leaving, but I don't think that was shocking because that was like death by 1,000 cuts, we saw that coming.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it was a gradual process. It wasn't like all of a sudden shocking thing.
And I mentioned the 3-0 comeback of the Red Sox over the Yankees, and he said in terms of 3-0 comebacks, his most memorable, obviously he lives in Philadelphia, is 2010 Stanley Cup playoffs, the Flyers coming back against the Bruins, who were down 3-0, and also down 3-0 in goals in Game 7.
I do remember that. And then I think the Canadiens ended up playing the Flyers in the next round, and the Canadiens lost, and I think the Canadiens would have beat the Bruins that year.
Correct. And that's all for listener mail, but I have a follow-up of my own from last week because we talked about a show. I talked about Game of Thrones, how they killed off the main character in the first season. And then you said there was this other show. We kept seeing the commercials. So I actually looked it up. I figured it out.
How did you look it up if you don't know anything about the show?
I asked ChatGPT, like, I forget how I worded it, but it was like a TV show where the main character was killed very early on in season 1, and then it gave me like the wrong show, like it wasn't it, and then it asked me, "Do you want me to keep looking?" and I was like, "Yes," and it asked me some questions. I just said it was a network show, and like different things. I don't remember what it was. Anyways, the show was called Big Sky.
That's right. Who were the actors in it?
So the character that they killed off was Ryan Felipe.
Okay, I never would have guessed that.
And the other main character of the show is this actress. She's actually Canadian. Her name is Catherine Winnick. She was one of the main characters.
Sounds familiar. There should have been two female actresses.
There was a second one. It was two female like cop investigators, and I mean Ryan Felipe was killed like in episode 1 or 2. And he was in all the promos because he's the face you recognize. Now, let me tell you something else about this show. It lasted 3 seasons, which I never could have imagined. I thought like it's dead on arrival after season 1, but apparently it lasted 3 seasons. Don't.
I only watched season 1, and the issue that they had in season 1, or the conflict, was resolved in season 1. So I don't know why there was a season 2 or 3, but whatever.
Right. All right, that's all I got for the listener mail on the follow-ups.
Okay, we'll be right back after this to talk about our favorite Montreal Canadiens goaltenders who were not born in Canada.
You're listening to Unscripted.
Are you taking a month-long vacation in the stratosphere and you know how hard it is to hold your breath? Are you the cosmic kid in full costume dress? You've got a nice little place in the podcast universe with Set Listing Bruce. Set Listing Bruce is your podcast for all things Bruce Springsteen fandom. We discuss his music, we talk about his tour, and we also talk to fans of other musicians and share their story of their passion, their fandom, and the way that their favorite artist's music makes them feel. Set Listing Bruce, a Bruce Springsteen fan podcast, is available wherever you find podcasts. Remember, there is magic in the night.
And now, back to Unscripted.
Okay, Skip, we're back. And I know that this topic sounds a little bit ridiculous. And since it was my idea, I feel like I need to explain it.
I just want to give people the background on this. You've been like, I don't want to say harassing me because that's not an accurate depiction, but you've been pushing this topic for like 6 weeks at least that you really want to do it. And I was like, no, we're not doing this. I really didn't want to, mostly because there's not a lot of goalies to choose from. So right away, we're starting from a list of, I actually think there's only 16 in the whole history of the world. That's my count. But anyways, and I didn't think it was like that good. And aren't we going to have the same guys? But like, you go ahead and explain why you wanted to do the topic.
Okay. So first of all, you'll recall about a year ago, or who knows when, we were talking about the Four Nations face-off and who was going to be the goalie or the goalies for Canada. And there were no good ones, if you recall.
No. In the end, Binnington played well.
He did. But the point being, there aren't that many good Canadian goaltenders in the NHL at the moment, which is rare. I mean, for my entire life, there's always been at least 1 or 2 or 3 good Canadian goaltenders, if not more.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we went from like probably all the greatest in history, right? We went from Patrick Roy to Martin Brodeur, Carey Price, Luongo, yeah.
Right, exactly. And you can go back even further if you want. But so it got me thinking, most of the goalies that have been on the Montreal Canadiens have been Canadian. So basically, the NHL is going one way. Like if you look at the good goalies in the NHL, they're Russian, they're Finnish, they're Czech, whatever. But Montreal hasn't really done that. Montreal, for some reason, has always had a Canadian-born goaltender.
It's so true, actually.
So I don't know if this is a philosophy or a strategy on their part, or it's just a coincidence. Who knows?
I don't think it's a strategy, but the Canadians do want to have... They like it when they have a French-Canadian goalie. I mean, I don't know if it's by fluke or if it's by design. And Carey Price obviously wasn't French-Canadian, but I feel like, that's kind of been a bit of the identity of the team for a long time. But, I mean, yeah, you're right. It's a different...
So it was just surprising to me that, the entire NHL is going in one direction and the Montreal Canadiens are going in the complete opposite direction. I'm not saying who's right or wrong, but that was why I started thinking about it. And then I'm starting to think, well, how many non-Canadian goaltenders have there been? And at first I could only think about, 3, 4 of them, whatever. So I had to do actual research. And according to my research, there have been 90 goaltenders in the history of the Montreal Canadiens. 90 different goaltenders who have played at least one game, which, considering the team has been around for over 100 years, I was surprised that the number was that low, to be honest. I thought it would be higher.
It is, yeah. But keep in mind, up until a certain point in time, there was no backup goalies. They only had one goalie. So, yeah.
Anyway, so 90 goalies. Now, if you eliminate all the Canadian-born goaltenders, I ended up with a list of 15. You ended up with 16. That's fine. I might have missed one.
Yeah. Well, there's one that I have that maybe you didn't count because, anyways, we'll get to that in the honorable mentions in my list. But.
Sure. Now, I went a step further. I eliminated also all the American-born goaltenders. So then you're left with only 7.
Okay.
And then of the 7, I picked 5.
Okay, I love it. So the thing is, what I did is I asked ChatGPT what you tried to ask it a few weeks ago when they told you Ken Dryden isn't Canadian.
Right.
I asked ChatGPT, like, can you give me a list of the Montreal Canadiens goalies who are not born in Canada? And then it gave me 5. And it acknowledged that it wasn't a complete list. And it says, would you like me to give you a longer list? I said, yes, give me a longer list. And then it gave me a bit longer list, but it still was only like 8 goalies. So then it said, would you like to make a more exhaustive list and a more exhaustive search of fully sourced list, which is bigger? And I said, yes. And it gave me a bigger list, but somehow that list included Samuel Montembeault. so who we all know is from Quebec. So like, obviously, like right off the bat, you have to be skeptical about this AI with stuff.
I didn't use AI for this, by the way. I used hockeyreference.com. So
I basically used what it gave me, but I also looked at a list of like similar to what you used, and I looked at all the goalies to try to like, but sometimes you don't know, like if they're American born, you don't know if they're Canadian, like the names are similar. So anyways, in the end, even though I resisted this topic, and I still think we're going to have possibly 4 the same.
Maybe all 5.
Well, I have an American, so
okay,
I don't
so
think
no,
so.
Then no.
So I think 4 the same, maybe in a different order. But it was actually fun to go down memory lane to do the research to remember the transactions of how the Canadiens acquired certain goalies, how they got rid of certain goalies, like a little snapshot of time from like the team of these eras. So I did enjoy that. Look, I don't know if the listeners are going to care at all about this topic. People may just fast forward, but like, I think it was fun. It's going to be fun actually to talk about these things. I think it's going to be fun for us to talk about this stuff. So like, we can get into it.
I'm glad you said that, because this is actually one of the most fun topics I've ever had to do. And not because I'm the one who thought of it. You know how you always say, whatever topic we're doing, you know right away what your number 1 is going to be. I had no idea what my number 1 was going to be going into this. So maybe that's why it was fun for me to do as well.
But that's shocking, because the number 1 to me is clear here.
I think I know who you're referring to.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's favorite, right? It's not best. It's
correct,
favorite.
Correct.
So
correct.
It's very subjective. It's very, you can order it how you like.
Correct.
Right? So, all right. So why don't you start with your number 5?
Number 5.
Okay, number 5 for me is Antiniemi, who was born in Finland. Now, just so happens the website I used, in addition to giving you stats on these players, and I can read off the stats in a minute, it also tells you the player's nickname, or nicknames plural.
Yeah.
And I didn't know any of these nicknames for any of these goalies. So Antiniemi had 2 nicknames. One of them was Nemo, which I get.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one, I never heard this, the Finnish Fortress.
Okay, fine.
So he actually had a decent career. He had 242 wins, 2.57 goals against average, 912 save percentage. Those are not bad numbers, actually. With Montreal, he only had 15 wins. So obviously he wasn't on the Canadiens that long. I think it was 2 years or something, 2 seasons.
I mean, he won the cup with Chicago, but by the time we got him, he was like backup only.
Right,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah, good pick. I have him on my honorable mentions, but I mean, I have every single goalie that's all that accounts on the
too.
honorable mentions.
Yeah, I have them all on my honorable mentions.
So number 5 for me is a guy that I didn't know was American. I always thought he was Canadian or even European. It's Pat Jablonski.
I remember him well.
He's actually from Toledo, Ohio. He was acquired by the Canadiens in November of 95 to be Patrick Roy's backup. He actually, and like in November of 95, we didn't know that Patrick Roy was going to get traded that year. That didn't happen until December, a month later. He actually had a really good year in 95, and he was actually decent in 96 as well. But I mean, his fate with us was always just to be a backup. He played like in the NHL for quite a few years. He played for the Blues, Tampa, Phoenix, Carolina, as well as for the Canadiens. I always liked his name. I always thought like after when they traded Patrick Roy, and you remember they got Jocelyn Thibault in that trade, and he was forced into being the starter, and Thibault sucked. I always felt like, why aren't they playing Pat Jablonski? He's better than Thibault, but like that was never going to happen. They had to prove that they made a good trade, which, everybody knew at the time was the worst trade in history. And actually looking back now, it is the worst trade in history. So there's no debating that. So anyways, that's Pat Jablonski.
Okay, good pick. I remember him as the St. Louis Blue, but I know that he was on the Canadiens for a bit.
Number 4.
Okay, next on my list is David Abisher, who was born in Switzerland. So you knew he was on my list, and he's probably on yours too. He had a terrible nickname. His nickname was Abby. So only 106 career wins and only 17 with Montreal. His career numbers were decent, like a .252 goals against average, .912 save percentage. He wasn't great with Montreal, although he did. I remember him having some really good games, here and there.
I have David Abisher also number 4 on my list, and I love when that happens because it's super strange.
The rest of our list could be identical in the right order too.
Actually, I think it's gonna be. So I mean, he was Patrick Roy's backup for quite a long time in Colorado, and he always had really good numbers. And people always thought, "Oh, wow, this guy, if he was a starter, he'd be really good," And then the Canadiens acquired him in March 2006 for Jose Theodore. They had completely given up on Theodore at that point, and even though he was good in Colorado, he really sucked in Montreal. Like he just never lived up to anything. Like you said, he had a good game here and there, but he really wasn't good. He only played 2 seasons. Then he signed with Phoenix, and then that was it for him. I liked him because he was Swiss, and there's not a lot of Swiss players in the NHL. I feel like the Swiss are underrated.
There's more now than there used to be.
There is. But at the time, you're like, oh, a Swiss goalie. Wow. What's this about, So yeah, David Abisher.
And then this has nothing to do with Switzerland, but when you have a bad goalie that gives up a lot of goals, they call him Swiss cheese.
That would be a good nickname for him on Hockey Reference.
Yes.
Number 3.
Okay, next on my list. And by the way, so they're all European, and I know how to pronounce these names, but I had my own pronunciation for some of these guys.
I swear, I'm almost positive that the next 3 are going to be the same order, and we're going to have the same 3 guys.
So Peter Budaj, who was born in Czechoslovakia. I know it's Budaj, but I will always call him Budaj.
I always called him Budaj.
Yeah.
I still do.
So apparently he had 2 nicknames as well. One was Ned Flanders. I had no idea. And the other one was Buds, which makes sense.
Ned Flanders. I feel like that's like a Wikipedia type of thing where some guy's pranking the Hockey Reference page.
So, 158 career wins, 2.70 goals against average, .904 save percentage. He was decent with Montreal, 23 wins, .910 save percentage, 2.47 goals against average. Decent goalie, did the job. But like you said, I mean, so far all these guys are backups. Yeah. Everyone I've mentioned has been a backup goalie.
So we don't have the same number 3. Budaj is only in my honorable mention.
Okay.
I have current Montreal Canadiens goalie Jacob Dobes, or as I called him at the beginning, Dobes.
I call him Jacob Dobbs.
Jacob Dobbs, so it's like Dobbs, Dobbs.
Yeah, I know that's not how to pronounce his name, but yes. No.
So he's from the Czech Republic. He played 16 games last season for the Canadiens as Montembeau's backup. And then actually played in the playoffs when Montembeau got hurt. Personally, I think he's better than Samuel Montembeau. I think he should be the starter.
I agree with you, and I think it's going to happen sooner than most people think.
Yeah. He made a splash on the Canadiens because he got a shutout in his first game. Like the first game he started, he got a shutout. And everyone's like, who's this guy? You know, like, oh my God, what do we have? We've got the next big thing. And then he cooled down, but he's really much more consistent than Montembeau is. He really comes off very well. I told you, I don't know if I told you, I think I did. I watched season 2. I never watched season 1, but I watched season 2 of The Rebuild on Crave.
I'm surprised. I watched season 1 and I didn't like it.
No, it's like Habs propaganda. Like it's like, it's very like rah, and I mean they give you some behind the scenes, but Dobas comes off really well in the show because he's really funny, and they actually make a point of really showing you how he played his first game and he got a shutout and how the team was rallying around him, and then of course again in the playoffs they rallied around him when Montembeau got hurt. I remember last year seeing an interview with Yuri Slavkovsky. They were asking him about Dobas and how he's been playing because he started off so well. And Slavkovsky said, in practice, Slavkovsky is very funny. He said, in practice, the guy lets in every shot, but in the game, he stops everything.
I mean, does he just not care in practice? I don't
know, but I just found it so funny. Slavkovsky always has these amazing quotes. So anyways, that's my number 3.
Number 2.
So I'm already at number 2. I think that we have the same top 2. I am just guessing. Number 2 is Cristobal Huet.
Sure.
Who was born in France. So also he has 2 nicknames apparently. One is the Man from France, which isn't such a great nickname. The other one is Cristowal, which is not bad. My favorite thing about Cristobal Huet is there was a playoff run one year that the Canadiens had, and I think they were playing the Hurricanes that year. And there was a radio station in Montreal that came up with this, I don't know if it was a song or a slogan called The Book on Huet.
Well, that started because of Pierre Maguire. Like that was a shot at him. But yeah, because Pierre Maguire came on the air on the Mitch Melnick show in the afternoon. And after Huet was doing so well, said, oh, the book's out on Huet now. And everyone knows how to beat him. But meanwhile, after he said that, Huet kept winning games.
Right,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, decent career, 129 wins. 58 of those were with the Canadiens. His Montreal Canadiens numbers were good, very good. 920 save percentage, 2.53 goals against average. And, I mean, my memory isn't great, but I believe that he was the number 1 goaltender for a little while on Montreal.
2, maybe 3 years, at least 2. He led the league in save percentage in 05-06, 929. He led the league.
So not a backup.
I'm just going to interrupt because he's also my number 2, so I'll say that right now.
Right.
We acquired him. The Habs acquired him for nothing, and he was supposed to be nothing. And then he was played so well and Theodore played so bad that he became the starter, and Theodore was gone. I don't know if you remember like the 05-06 Stanley Cup playoffs.
You have to tell me who they played. I don't remember it by year. I remember it by who
the Canadiens played. The Canadiens played Carolina in the first round.
Yes.
Carolina eventually was the Stanley Cup champion that year.
But Montreal won the first 2 games against them until Carolina made a goaltending change.
Exactly. So Canadiens won the first 2 games easily. Carolina yanked Martin Gerber, and Huet was the goalie. That's why I'm mentioning this.
Right.
And Carolina yanked Gerber, replaced him with Cam Ward, who eventually went on to win the Conn Smythe Trophy.
Right, I remember this, yes.
But there's not just that. It was also in, I don't know if it was game 2 or game 3, but Saku Koivu was high-sticked in the eye by Justin Williams of Carolina and didn't play after game 2. Like, that was it. So they changed their goalie. We lost our best player. Their goalie that they replaced Gerber with was a wall. No one could score on him. And then they won the Stanley Cup. And Huet is just a footnote in all of that drama.
Right.
Right?
I do remember that. I forgot about the Saku Koivu thing, but now that you mention it, I remember it. So,
yeah. That's why it was fun to remember all this.
For sure.
Because, like, I remember all that stuff, but I'm like, Huey was the goalie? Because it's a bit of a blur in those years. You know, there was like a musical chairs of goalies, you know, after Patrick Roy until Carey Price. There was a million goalies. And
100%.
actually, most of our goalies are from that era.
And I think you even still maybe have a mouse pad with Cristobal Huey on it, if I'm not mistaken.
I did have to throw it out because it was in like 700 It was all broken and gross. It was like unrecognizable. But yes, I did have that Cristobal Huey mouse pad because I signed up Matthew for the Canadiens fan club.
I remember
in those years, and they you would pay like $20 or something, and then they would send you like stuff. You know? Yeah, yeah.
Number 1.
Okay, so I'm at number 1, and I think we have the same number 1. It's Yaroslav Halak, who was born in Czechoslovakia.
Correct. He's my number 1 as well, and I think that was, you know, it's weird because for like Jacob Dobes, it says he was born in Ostrava, Czech Republic.
Yes.
And then when I looked up Yaroslav Halak, it said Bratislava, Czechoslovakia.
Same with Peter Budaj, because when they were born, it was still called Czechoslovakia at the time.
Got it.
That's why. Halak apparently has 3 nicknames.
Oh.
One's called Yarrow, not great. The other one's called the Brick Wall, also not great. And the one I like is the Halakness Monster.
Yeah, but I've never heard anybody call him that until just right now.
Exactly. Me neither.
Hockey nicknames are the worst. Hockey nicknames are. You know.
So, you know, he had a decent career. 295 wins, 2.50 goals against average, 915 save percentage. He had 56 wins with Montreal. He was, I mean, I'm not going to forget the playoff run that he had. Was it against Washington and Pittsburgh, where he basically single-handedly got the Canadiens to the 3rd round. And this was when they had Carey Price. And everyone thought and knew that Carey Price is the number 1 goaltender, but he wasn't that year.
No, he hadn't established himself as number 1 yet. It was still like, there was still like the Huey, and then it was like, is it going to be Price or Halak? And then like they could both, like, it was like Price hadn't established himself as a starter yet. And then continue, but yeah.
Well, I'm also not going to forget the day that Halak was traded. A lot of people were very upset about that, including your son, because I think he was your son's favorite player at the time.
Well, I mean, when you beat Pittsburgh and Washington in the playoffs, the 2 top seeds in the East, you beaten Crosby and you beaten Ovechkin, and you stood on your head as a goalie. And then literally at the end of the season, you get traded. It's shocking.
For sure. Like, that could have been in our last episode, most shocking things.
I agreed with the trade because they couldn't afford to pay him what he wanted. He was a restricted free agent, and Price was too, and they made their choice, and they chose Price, and they made the right choice, because, you know, Halak played for 7 teams. He played for 6 other teams after we let him go, right? And every single place he went, it was almost the same story. It was that he played really well, but the other team never thought, the team that owned him never thought, like, this is our guy. And he kept just getting traded and signing with other teams, you know? So I don't know. I mean, I liked the guy, and I thought he was a really good goalie, and it's just the circumstance here, you know? So.
Right. I mean, it all depends who the other goalie is, because he did play well after he got traded. It wasn't that he had bad numbers or bad seasons. But like you said, he always happened to be on a team that had a goalie that was the number 1 goalie, and then he was relegated to be a backup. But of all the backups in the NHL, he was by far the best.
Oh, yeah.
In the seasons
he's
that
like
he played.
a 1A. He's like a 1A. Like, he's a backup, but he could be a starter. You know? So, yeah.
Anyway, I felt bad for him the way he got treated, I guess. But, you know, good for him. He ended up with 295 career wins. Nothing to sneeze at. So there you go.
So that summer when he got traded, he was doing an event at a mall, the mall that
I remember this,
which is near my mall. It's where I live. And I don't know where it was. I think it was probably like at Sport Expert or something, or maybe it was, I don't know what it was.
He was signing autographs at Lids, baby.
Yes, something like this. And he was there, and he's not in a Canadiens jersey because he's not on the team anymore. So he's just like there.
Because he had agreed to do this, I think, before he got traded, and he wanted to fulfill his commitment.
Exactly. And it was on the news because like there was so many people there. This is from Wikipedia, what I'm going to read you. Though 500 fans were expected, more than 5,000 fans attended the event held at Fairview Point Clare Mall, testifying to his popularity with Canadiens fans. I mean, he just came off the hugest playoff run. He was massive, and then they got rid of him. So it was just the circumstance of the shock of it. But like I've talked about this before, the one thing that I don't like about, and it's nothing to do with him. It took a long time for the fans to get over that he was traded. Because if you liked Halak, automatically, for something in people's brains, they hated Price. So I will go, this is the hill I will die on, that there are psychotic fans in Montreal that were rooting 5 years later, even 10 years later, were rooting for Carey Price to fail. They took pleasure when Carey Price did poorly because they were still angry that the Canadiens chose Price over Halak. I firmly believe this.
First of all, there are psychotic hockey fans in every Canadian city, so that doesn't surprise me at all, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, didn't your son go to that autograph thing at Fairview Mall and wait forever to get an autograph?
I don't remember if that happened or not. I'm going to ask him. He may have gone. I don't know, but I don't think he did.
And one more point. I know that your position is that trading him was the right thing to do because Price was clearly the number one goaltender and clearly the better goaltender. And then, he ended up being on the Canadiens for a decade. I'm not going to dispute that with you. However, they did spend a lot of money on Price and didn't have any money to spend on anyone else. So maybe it might have been a good idea to keep Halak at a lower cost and have more money for other players. Maybe. Who knows?
This is correct. And we've talked about this before in that you don't need to have an elite goalie to win the Stanley Cup. You need a good goalie to win the Stanley Cup.
Right.
Right?
And all that money was locked up in Carey Price. And as good as he had a great career. They never really did anything. I mean, they went to the finals once.
Correct.
So,
all right. So I'm going to name you the other goalies.
Okay, and I should have the same, but go ahead.
Well, you name me them, and I'll tell you which one I have extra.
Okay. So, on my honorable mentions, Jacob Dobbs. I know he was in your list.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Vokoun only played one game with the Canadiens, but still, it counts.
Yeah.
And all the others that I have are American. So. I'm not even sure what order this is. Mike Condon, Caden Primo, Charlie Lindgren, Al Montoya, Pat Jablonski, who you mentioned, Les Kuntar.
Yeah, I have him.
Keith Kincaid.
I have him. I don't even know who he is.
And Mark Holden.
I have all these. So the 16th one is actually the first American-born goalie ever to play for the Canadiens, and it was in 1925.
Aha. That's why I forgot about it.
It's a guy by the name of Alphonse Frenchy Lacroix.
And he's American with that name?
Yeah, well, they named him Frenchy because his last name, and then he... So back in those days, there was no backup goalies, obviously. Mm-hmm. They had one goalie, played every game. The Canadiens had George Vezina. But there was the initial, this is the first iteration of the e-bug. So the NHL had these emergency goalies that would come to games because there was no backups, right? Mm-hmm. So that's this guy, Alphonse Lacroix, was one of these emergency goalies. George Vezina in 1925 got tuberculosis and he couldn't play. So Lacroix came and played one game, and then actually played 5 games for the Canadiens as the starter until they actually signed another goalie, and then he never played in the NHL again after that. But he was still an emergency goalie. Yeah. There you go. I did my research.
We'll be right back after this with some final thoughts.
You're listening to Unscripted.
Hey everyone, Skip here. I'm really excited to invite all of you to follow my new account at Skip Cooks on Instagram and TikTok. I'll be sharing my love of cooking with recipes in the form of 1-minute music videos, all set to some of my favorite songs. Don't miss out, follow me, and let's have some fun in the kitchen.
Unscripted with Skip and Josh is available wherever you listen to podcasts. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. To interact with the show, send an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. Follow the show on Twitter and go to Facebook to like the show page. And now, some final thoughts from the guys.
All right, I do have one final thought that I'm dying to tell you.
I can't wait.
It ties into what we were saying today. It's one of these weird AI gaffes, like AI just giving you wrong information. But this is, I'm going to try to explain this properly, but it's a little confusing because it's wrong in many ways. So I follow these different accounts on Reddit and Twitter and stuff, and they ask like hockey trivia questions, sometimes sports trivia. So I'm going to ask you the question, maybe you know off the top of your head, because I thought I knew the answer, and I did. Do you know how many NHL defensemen have ever scored 40 goals in a season?
I mean, without looking it up, I'm going to say 4?
Okay, well, no, but anyways. So the answer is 2.
Okay.
It's Paul Coffey and Bobby Orr. There's been a ton have scored in the 30s, right? Okay, so this is what Google told me in their AI overview of the question that I asked. Only 3 defensemen in NHL history have scored at least 40 goals in a single season. Paul Coffey, 48 goals in 85-86. Bobby Orr, 41 goals in 74-75. And Doug Wilson, 39 goals in 81-82. So
now 39 is more than 40.
Yeah. Last time I checked, 39 is not 40. So I actually double-checked this, and it's true. Doug Wilson did score 39 goals that year. So the number's correct, but it can't count 1, 2, 3. It doesn't, I don't understand. Then it continues. Here are the defensemen who have reached the 40-goal mark in the NHL. It gives me a list. Paul Coffey, 48 goals, like it said. Bobby Orr, 41 goals, like it said. Doug Wilson, 48 goals in 85-86. So it just told me that he scored 39 goals, but now in the list, just underneath it, it says that he scored 48 goals. So I'm like, okay. So that's why I checked it to check, and it is 39, so he didn't get the 40. Then, right underneath that, it says key facts. Paul Coffey is the only defenseman to score more than 40 goals. You just told me there was 3, even though actually 3 was really 2. And now you're telling me there's only 1.
So what you're saying then is that there is still hope for humans.
I think so. Like, I looked this up and I was flabbergasted because I was like, how? Just how? So yeah, that's my AI story of the week. Maybe we make it into a segment. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure we can find other mistakes that AI has made, but that's kind of nuts.
Now, I do have one more final thought. I don't know if you have something else, but I have one thing that I want to make a declaration.
All right.
How are you finding the baseball playoffs so far?
I like them. They're good. Yeah. I'm looking forward to today because there's 4 games today. This is like one of my favorite times of the year because there's baseball almost every day and it's like important games. As you know, I don't like that there's so many off days because you really only need 3 starting pitchers. So the whole strategy and everything about baseball changes completely in October.
But that's why I kind of like, I don't like that the first round is a 3-game series because it is a bit unfair. Like it's kind of after a 162 game season and then your thing comes down to a 3-game series. But at least it's 3 games in a row. But it used to only
be 1 game, so it's better.
It is better, yeah, I guess. So all that is to say is that the Yankees are playing the Blue Jays. And I hate the Blue Jays. And
but I think you hate the Yankees more.
This is what I'm getting at, like the last time when the Blue Jays made their runs, in the Jose Bautista, Josh Donaldson years, I firmly believe like I was the only person in Canada who was rooting for the Texas Rangers. Like I was literally rooting against the Blue Jays. But I'm here to tell you that I'm fully on board and I am all in on the Blue Jays over the Yankees. I will root hard for the Blue Jays over the Yankees. Now, if the Blue Jays end up playing the Mariners or the Tigers, we'll see where my allegiance lies. But right now, I'm all in on the Jays.
So, speaking of the Jays, I think all the teams that are still alive in the playoffs needed to announce their roster today. I think it was just announced a few minutes ago. I haven't looked online yet because we've been recording. And so I don't even know who the Jays decided to put on the roster and leave off the roster. I do know that Bo Bichette is injured and is not on the roster. That much I know, which is a big blow to the Jays. But here's my thing. And this has nothing to do with the Jays. Here's the thing that annoys me. So in the regular season, I think you're allowed to carry 13 pitchers on your roster, which is completely insane to me that any team would need 13 pitchers. But that's because I followed baseball in the 80s when it was good. So I don't know what the Jays decided to do, how many pitchers they decided to carry, but with all the off days, and with this being a short 5-game series, and there being 2 days off during those 5 games, you really only need 8 or 9 pitchers. Like, I don't see how you could even use 13 pitchers if you wanted to.
It's true, because you need 3 starters, maybe 4.
And then how many relievers do you need? You need lefties, obviously, because they're a commodity. But
I guess 5, but I mean, now, these relievers, they come in the 5th inning, the 4th inning.
Anyway, so again, I haven't seen the roster. I don't know how many pitchers they decided to go with, but really, you only need 8 or 9.
Well, I mean, the Jays bullpen is brutal. So if
it is and
if
it isn't.
the Yankees are going to win, it's going to be because the Jays bullpen's not
so
good.
The Yankees bullpen, I think, is worse than the Jays, and
it's bad.
If you look, like, there's maybe one team that's still left in the playoffs that has a good bullpen. That's it. Like maybe Milwaukee.
Maybe.
I don't know.
No, Philadelphia is pretty good, but even then,
like,
it's
teams
sketchy.
don't have good bullpens. It's not like it used to be where like Kansas City had an amazing bullpen. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, Kansas City started that whole thing of like using 5 guys in your bullpen and being basically locking down the 6th inning to the 9th inning, right?
So I mean, obviously, that if a pitcher is really good, he is a starting pitcher. It's rare that you have a good reliever these days.
I was encouraged to see in the first round that some of the managers let their starters go like 8 innings.
I was shocked.
Like Schlittler the other night, and the Red Sox, Jared Crochet. But I mean, Crochet and Skubal are elite, right? These guys should never come out, really, unless they really are tired, visibly tired,
Yeah, that guy who pitched for the Yankees, I never heard of him until 2 days ago.
He looked unhittable. But we'll see how he goes against the Jays. That's against the Red Sox. The Red Sox have literally the worst lineup in all the playoffs. They're terrible. They don't have anybody over 280. They don't have any actually good hitters in their whole lineup. Trevor Story's their best hitter. That guy's not that good.
He's not. You're absolutely right. He's not.
And Bregman, who I love Bregman, I think he's an incredible player, but he's past it, and he's not like the dangerous Bregman that he was, So we'll see how he does against, Springer and Vlad and these guys. And Alejandro Kirk, your favorite. Yes,
I do like Kirk a lot. But yeah, the Jays are going to miss Bichette for sure. I mean, it should be an interesting series. I don't really think one team has an edge over the other. They ended up with the same exact record after 162 games. The Jays won the season series, I think 8-5. But it's all about when they played each other, right? It has, the Yankees are hotter now than they were a month or 2 ago, and the Jays are colder now than they were a month or 2 ago. So, who knows? I have a recommendation.
Let's hear it.
So there was nothing to watch last night, as you know, because there was no baseball playoffs. There was no NFL. NHL regular season hasn't started. So there was actually nothing to watch last night. I don't know what you watched.
I watched a movie, actually.
So I watched the documentary, and it was really good.
Which?
And if you haven't watched it, I think you will really like it. It's Lilith Fair Building a Mystery.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I went to Lilith Fair 1 and Lilith Fair 2 in person, so I lived that.
As I was watching it, I said to myself, didn't Skip go to this in person?
Of course I did. Well, the first one, it's vague. I can't remember at all. I remember it was at Jarry Tennis Stadium.
Okay. I don't remember. I
thought
remember
was
the
weird,
tour,
but
I don't remember, where it was in Montreal.
It was actually like a great venue, and I don't know why they never used it for concerts after that, because it was really good. yeah, it was awesome.
Who did you go with?
I don't know.
Maybe you'll see yourself in the documentary.
I would love it. I would love to see that.
But it was really well done.
All right. It was actually, even though I resisted this topic and I did not want to do it, I did have a lot of fun talking about all these non-Canadian Montreal Canadiens goalies. It's funny how it really encapsulates mostly like the Canadians' plight of like the 90s and early 2000s where they weren't that good, and we had this revolving door of goalies. But it was as expected because we had mostly the same. But that's all good because we still had an interesting discussion. I'll talk to you next time.
Have a great week.